development, plus the government's latest anti-corruption bill that will imprison public officials for failing to declare their assets.
Failure to submit a declaration as required under the bill, or the submission of a declaration that contains false or misleading information is an offense.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, is also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the nation builder, and Vodafone. The future is exciting, ready. Joining us learning tonight that Auditor General Daniel Demelevo has been locked out of his office days after he was directed by the President to proceed on a compulsory leave. Mr. Demelevo had passed by the office today while serving his 167 days compulsory leave to pick some documents, we understand. He, however, discovered that the locks to his office door had been changed as he attempted to open it. We have secured a recording of the Auditor General's attempt to access his office. Listen.
Yeah, but the key cannot even enter. How do you see that? It was flat like this, and they changed it to this one.
Brief there, but articulates that issue today. There's a video of this in which you see the Auditor General struggling, holding the key, attempting to get access to this particular office, his own office, today. Of course, this matter is a subject of a court case at the Supreme Court already. Governance think tank, the Center for Democratic Development, had opposed the compulsory leave. Dr. Kojo Asante is the Director of Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the CDD and joins me on the line right now. Doc, thank you for your time here on Top Story. So the Auditor General has been locked out of his office. We had the brief recording there of him attempting to open the door, clanking the keys, etc. Whilst he is enjoying that leave, is this a fair move to lock him out?
Good evening, Evans, and good evening to your listeners. I've been speechless, since I saw the video and, of course, tried to confirm what has happened. It's a real low. It's a real low for our country. I never thought that we'll be seeing something like this. Really appalling. Really appalling. I really think that the president has to put a stop to this, these actions, because it's really an embarrassment for our country. Remember, this is still the substantive Auditor General. You, Evans Mensah, or myself, when we go on leave, somebody go and change the lock to the office. We've been told that the person is supposed to be on leave. Why do you go and change the locks to his office? It doesn't make any sense. Why would this is an Auditor General of Ghana, and we are treating him. I'm actually really shocked by the turn of events, and really I think the president has to reconsider this. It's not good for our country. It's not good for our image, and this has to stop.
I want to play a slightly longer clip of what happened today when he attempted to access the office, and then I'll come back with the question that it raises.
There's no need for trying.
Yeah, but the key cannot even enter.
It's a different.
How do you see that? It was flat like this.
Yeah,
and they changed it to this one. So that is fine. Good.
I mean, Dr. Sante, question is, and I also did some checking. Understand that he had passed by to try and take some documents from the office. I mean, this is his office. He's still on leave, but he's on leave. Why must he be going to the office?
I mean, Evans. I know you have to ask these questions, but seriously. So if I am on leave, I cannot go past my office to do whatever. I can even decide that, maybe there's some assignments, some emails I wanted to answer. I can't go into my own office. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, this is what, over 20 years of democratic governance in this country, and this is what we do. We've reduced our governance to this, and we're going to rationalize this. I think anybody that has any love for this country, that people who want to do the right thing and work should never be treated this way. And if we start allowing some of these things to happen, we will completely run down all our institutions we have built under the Fourth Republic. If we don't start to turn the corner and we continue along this path, we are going to completely destroy everything that people have fought for in the last 20 years. It will come back to haunt us. It's so low. It's so low. He's still the substantive auditor general. He's still the substantive auditor general. You are telling me that if he's on leave, he cannot go to his office. Where did we learn our governance from?
What about the argument that if he exhausts his 167 days and he returns to the office, of course he'll be given access and he'll be given the new keys to the door? That it's just because he's on leave and not supposed to be working that this particular decision has been taken, that when he exhausts the time, he will definitely have access. He's not being sacked.
Is the leave a punishment? Is he serving a prison term? Is that what we are saying? That he's serving a prison term? As I said, I've just been speechless about it. So I'll leave it at that.
There are those who look at this and suggest that it is almost a confirmation that this is a confirmation that of the suspicion that the leave was actually a ruse to get him out, and this locking him out confirms this. Do you ascribe to this theory?
Well, I don't want to get into speculation, but if anybody has any issue, legitimate issue with the Auditor General, there are processes for removing an Auditor General. Just use that process. We just removed Electoral Commission chair and deputies. We went through the process and they were removed. So there is nothing that stops anybody from using the right processes to remove an Auditor General. It cannot be through this. Because you see, when you do these things, you damage the office and the institutions forever. You are opening the door for this kind of behavior. Because if you can do this and you legitimately think you can do this with an Auditor General, you can do it with a Chief Justice, you can do it as Raj Boss, all of these people who are supposed to serve as institutions of restraint and ensure our public accountability. That's what democratic accountability is all about. If we bastardize all of these institutions, weaken them, what do you think we are going to have? Nobody would have any belief in these institutions anymore. Then we can't talk about democracy. Is that what we say we want?
Well, the Auditor General answers to the Public Accounts Committee, works with them directly, submits his report. Dr. Sante, hold the line for me. Let me bring in the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee, James Kuchabaji. into this conversation. Mr. Abogi, thank you for time here on Top Story. Your reaction to this latest twist?
Thank you very much, Evans, and good evening to your listeners. Mr. Evans, I think that I'm completely devastated. It's very surprising that as an officer working in the high office of Auditor General, who is not a junior officer, somebody whose position is the creation of the Constitution, somebody who is actually protected by our Constitution, should be treated the way this government is treating the current Auditor General. If I'm an Auditor General or I'm on leave, does it mean that I cannot go to my office?
I mean, why should you be going to your office when you're in your leave?
Is that the normal practice? Ask yourself. If you're on leave, don't you go back to Joy?
Yeah, I might pass by to say hi to my colleagues, but if I want to access my office to take documents, I mean, some may say, what do you need the documents for? What do you have to hide?
I'm asking you for practical purposes. Don't you go back to your office when you are on leave? I have worked before as a civil servant. A number of times I've gone on leave, I went back to my office. If I'm on leave, doesn't mean that I've vacated my post. And for that matter, nothing prevents me from going back to my office. Either pick a document or either check certain things, or even my office email can also be checked when I go back to the office. So, as a high officer working in this republic, I cannot go back to my office. So, I was surprised that the Auditor General go back to his office and the door was locked. Is it an intention? I don't want to speculate, but is it an intention that this government don't want the current Auditor General to work as the Auditor General? Is it a confirmation that they are just locking him out and they don't want him, they are sacking him from the office? If there's a way to remove him from office, I think that the Constitution provided the processes there to follow. So that should be done. Rather than going this way, you cannot remove the Auditor General by this means. And I don't want to believe that they want to remove him by this means. Why?
I mean, but
he's a small boy.
But Mr. Abaji, isn't there also a legitimate question to ask? I mean, I've asked this question before, though, that, I mean, what do he need the documents for when he's on leave?
I am not saying that he's going to pick a document. I'm just saying that maybe he's going to pick a document or he wants to go and do something in the office. Or even he just try to see if really his office, he can access to his office. And this is a confirmation that he's been locked out. Probably he just want there to go and try.
Yes, Mr. Sanchez.
And to see the mind of this government. I don't think that this government is prepared to fight corruption. I mean, I don't think at all. Dr.
Santi?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm quite sure this question about what does it need documents for? Why? Who has authority to stop him from going to take documents, from his own office? This is the Auditor General. So if the president is on leave and the president decides to go to Jubilee House to go and take documents, somebody can stop him and say, no, you can't take documents from here because you're on leave. If the speaker is on leave and decides to pass by the office to take documents, we are saying that the parliamentary service can tell him that, no, he can't take office documents from his office, or the Chief Justice. I mean, what kind of ridiculous things are these? I really think somebody needs to put a stop to this, because as I said, it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassment, and we need to stop this.
Mr. Abaji, he has a deputy who is acting whilst he's away. The deputy is using this particular office. In fact, what we heard when we did the checks is that the office may have been locked and the door locks changed, possibly on instruction of the board. I did check with the board. They will not confirm or deny it. But even that is so, the acting is legitimately occupying that office, and he decides that whilst I'm here, I want to have my privacy and to work in safety, and so I've changed the locks. It's not a justifiable excuse to have.
First of all, the acting is not supposed to be using that office. He's not a substantive Auditor General. He's only acting. Now, in fact, he's not even an acting Auditor General. He's just the Deputy Auditor General holding that position in the absence of the Auditor General. So he has no right to enter that office. If that is the situation, then somebody must take this thing up because it is not fair. That is not how human beings are treated. You have asked me to go on leave. I proceeded on leave. You have gone to change the lock to my door, and you have asked somebody who you said should be acting on my behalf when I'm on leave to go and occupy. What happens if he goes there and puts some document there and let us say that document, I put it there? Is it fair? What is happening in this country? Is that the Ghana we belong to? Is that the Ghana we all cherish? I think this is too much.
I mean, let me ask you, as a chair of the PAC, though, this has been rambling on for a while. I wonder whether you have any authority to intervene in the matter.
No. Unfortunately, the Public Accounts Committee is one of the committees of Parliament, and the powers that we have been clothed with are derived from the Article 103 of the Constitution. Until the issues are referred to us by the Speaker, we don't have any control over this. We do not. That is why some of us have been calling for all the time that as Auditor General whose report end up in Parliament, he works for Parliament, and for that matter, he's an officer of Parliament, so his appointment should be controlled by Parliament. We have been saying this over and over. And now that this is not the case, the President can do all this. Whilst if you want to remove an Auditor General, the Constitution is there. I think Article 146 or whatever is there to follow. But do you want to use this means in the 21st century to remove somebody from office? Well, I think if that is what we want to do as a country, so be it.
I mean, Dr. Asante, this case is still a subject of a court litigation. In fact, tomorrow it comes up in court. Does this latest development have any bearing on the court case? Would it impact at all? I mean, the legality of it. What do you say?
No, I mean, there are. I think the constitutional matters that is raised is something that still has to be pursued and pursued vigorously, because the effect of what has happened, and the implication it has for independent government institutions is so dire that if we don't resolve it in the court, it portends real trouble for us down the line. But there is so much that still is within the President's hands to mitigate some of these things that have happened. There is no accumulated leave. The law is very, very clear about that. So even if the Auditor General is asked to take his leave for this year, it's fine. We can mitigate later on, whether the President can ask him to go on leave. But the fact that we are still pursuing, something that is obviously manifestly wrong in terms of this accumulated leave doesn't make any sense. We are paying the Auditor General to sit at home for 167 days. I mean, nobody would do that to their business. Why would we do that to the public service and say that this is good governance? So there's a lot that we can still do, even as we address this issue of what kind of relationship the executive should have with these independent governance institutions. But there's a lot that the executive can do now to really stop, all of this thing that is going on, that is really dragging our image, badly in among, the community of nations.
I mean, Dr. Santos, stay with me, because today another issue that I know CDD had been actively involved in came to Parliament. The government is, and this is still within the anti-corruption realm, government is now proposing a bill that will impose up to a 2-year imprisonment on any public officer who fails to declare their asset or declares assets with false information in it. This is called the Conduct of Public Officials Bill 2018, which the Attorney General has been pushing today. She's been on the floor today, Madam Gloria Kufu, to push it through.
Although there are public finance laws, such as the Public Financial Management Act 2016 Act 921, the Public Procurement Act 2003 Act 663, the Internal Audit Agency Act 2003 Act 658, and the Audit Service Act 2000 Act 584, which are intended to regulate financial management in the country and to curb the leakage of resources, they do not effectively deal with the problem of corruption of the public officer. The bill has therefore been drafted to address these issues. Assets acquired after declaration of assets will be presumed to have been acquired unlawfully unless they can reasonably be regarded as having been acquired through income, acceptable gifts, loans, inheritance, or other lawful means.
That last bit sounds pretty strong. Any asset you acquire, if this law is passed, any asset you acquire after you've declared your assets, after you've been appointed, is deemed to have been acquired illegally, unless you can prove that you acquired it legitimately through proper income or some other legitimate means. Let me bring in my parliamentary correspondent, Joseph Okugapo, who's been looking through the various clauses. Joseph, run us through some of the essential ones.
It makes provision for who can actually hold a public office going forward. And the bill makes the point that you can only hold a public office if you've not been convicted of a serious offense or an offense which involves fraud or dishonesty, or that you've not acted in any prejudicial manner when it comes to public interest and you are not under death sentence. The bill also makes the point that every year, public officers every 4 years are supposed to declare their assets. We will come to that in a while. But additionally, the document makes the point that when it comes to people who hold various public offices, they are prohibited from sexually harassing others. People who are in public office are not expected to accept or solicit gifts which will end up advantaging or favoring the person who has an interest in a matter that he may be dealing with. And then it makes other provisions for how public officers should actually conduct themselves. On the bit having to do with the declaration of assets, this new document now provides a sanction regime targeted at people who take office and don't end up declaring the assets. So it reiterates a point that's already existent in the Constitution, that when you're a public officer, before you take office and at the end of every 4-year period, you are supposed to declare your assets. But it introduces more like various sanctions. So it makes the document makes the point that a public officer who fails to submit a declaration or clarification under this particular act when it comes to declaring their assets commits an offense, and that whoever does that is liable on summary conviction to a fine of not less than 100 penalty units and no more than 250 penalty units, or a term of imprisonment of not less than 6 months and not more than 2 years, or both. And in addition to that, the appointment of that public officer may be terminated. So for those who refuse to declare the assets, your office may be terminated in terms of your appointment. You can go to prison for up to 2 years, and then you could as well be fined. Now, another provision in the bill makes the point that when it comes to declaration of assets, something has been lifted from the previous declaration of asset document, which continues to make the point that the Auditor General is to keep any such declaration of assets confidential. However, authorized staff of the Commission may access the information where a public officer is under some form of investigation, and that the public officer who provided the information or the authorized representative of that public officer or a person who is authorized by law may then access the information having to do with the declaration of assets. So those have been some of the provisions that have been outlined in the conduct of public officers.
But just very quickly, there's a controversy over this bill also doesn't make it mandatory for the assets once declared to be published.
It actually doesn't. So now what it allows for is that there could be the verification of it, as I just read out.
By the Auditor General.
Yes, but
myself and you, we can't access it. We can't see it.
No.
Okay.
No, unless some form of investigation arises and then the Auditor General or the officers involved in the investigation could then access it. And this is something that a number of MPs think should change going forward if the asset declaration regime can be better tightened, including the majority leader, Evans Mensah himself.
Okay, thank you very much, Joseph. Dr. Asante, your reaction to this?
Yeah, I mean, no, this is a welcome bill, and that's why sometimes, the inconsistencies in our anti-corruption fight, really baffles me. Because here you are, the Attorney General is there, pursuing the laying, I think it's the second reading of the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, and trying to make the reforms that we are pushing for many, many, many years, and then you're locking out the Auditor General from his office. It doesn't make any sense.
A bill that will require the same Auditor General to sort of implement and verify. And this is
an Auditor General that came and digitized, the process of even submitting, the asset declarations and so on.
But isn't it more about the institution of the Auditor General than the individual, as in Daniel Domelabo?
Listen, you cannot. Institutions are led by great leaders. That's what makes institutions. You can have great institutions. If you don't have great leadership, they will not be able to achieve anything. And that is the lesson that we have to learn. That when we've had the Emil Shorts in the past and Afajans in the past, they led that to achieve results. Now, on the Conduct of Public Officers Bill, we submitted a memo because what has been missing in the anti-corruption fight is really how we regulate public ethics, conflict of interest, nepotism, gift giving, all of those areas, the gray areas, that if you look at any anti-corruption case, that's where you start from. People putting themselves in conflict of interest and eventually using it to their advantage for private gain. So we need clear rules as to what kind of behavior people should have when they are in public service. What is missing, particularly on the asset declaration issue, is that even though we are allowing some verification, it's still partial. There's no way you are going to be able to get the public to help you determine whether or not somebody has acquired the assets or what the declaration is correct if you don't publicize it. If you don't give the Auditor General the room to be able to go out there and try and verify whatever has been put out by the public officer. So it's still limited because that was what was in Act 550, and I don't think we've had any improvement there in the current framing of it. So I think I hope that Parliament will change the way that particular provision has been crafted.
I'm grateful, Dr. Kojo Asante there with the CDD. Now, there is no way you will run out of things to do during this lockdown because Vodafone has got you sorted with too much data. Now, double the data at the same price. So whether you are taking an exciting masterclass or binge watching Netflix series or bringing the party to Zoom, you now get too much data for the day and too much bonus for midnight till 4 a.m. That's even more fun and way more than you are paying for. Dial *700# to get 3 GB data for 10 CDs, 8 GB data for 20 CDs, and 20 GB data for 50 CDs bundles. Stay home, stay connected with Vodafone, because with too much data, there's almost nothing you can do. Ready? Ella, you obviously also had the chairman of the Public Accounts Committee.